pineapple juice. What's up, people? Welcome back. Hopefully you guys are doing well. And today is unscripted. Normally I have some notes that I usually kind of run off of, or just like a general idea of what I want to talk about. So today's video is going to be another one of those like personal types of videos and just kind of how I'm feeling at this current moment. And it's really going to be revolved around me being in this apartment for the first month and what life is like so far. So we're not going to be cutting to any B-roll or any sort of lighting breakdown or anything like that today. It's just going to be kind of me and you just chatting away. Moving out on my own was a huge step in my life, and it was one that I didn't take very lightly. I thought about it for months and months, almost maybe 9 months I thought about moving out, and I finally ended up making that jump. And something I talk about a lot, especially with my friends who we sometimes have like deeper conversations. I talk about in life and in business and as a creative, whatever, you're always and constantly jumping off cliffs, and every time you grow, you're jumping off of a bigger and higher cliff, and they get more scary. Because I remember the first time I had to jump off a cliff was when I quit my full-time job as a landscaper to go into this field in video, and the next cliff was starting my own business, and the next, and it just keeps going like that. And it's a never-ending process of jumping off cliffs, and they keep getting higher and higher and scarier. But that's also a very exciting part about growth, is that if you find yourself scared about something new, then you are potentially in a good spot to move up a level or grow in a way. And not saying that's always the case, and sometimes a change that's scary might not be the best thing. But from my experience, a lot of the times where I'm facing change, I'm facing some sort of adversity in my life, and I've had a feeling of uncertainty. It's always, the result of that feeling has always been pretty positive, and it's allowed me to reflect back on that experience afterwards and realize that all of the pain and suffering and anxiety and depression that I went through was all worth it. And not saying that anxiety and depression is worth it and it's great. It's not. It sucks. But it's allowing me to see the light at the end of the tunnel when I do get anxious and when I do feel depressed. I know that I've been through this before. I've had similar feelings, and through just life and through hard work and through, faith and belief and so many other things, that things will work out in the end. And that was one thing about this apartment, was that I was nervous about rent. I was worried about being on my own. I was worried about being alone because I'm by myself here most of the time. I was worried about being in a new state, away from my parent, away from my mom, my grandmother, away from my family and my friends. And now that we're a month in, I could actually talk a little bit more about that. And I think we're about 5 minutes in already because I've been just chatting away. But regardless, there are so many benefits that I've found already in my life of just being alone here in my apartment. And I've already learned so much about myself that I haven't before because I've been home prior to this. And one of the things that I found was my ability to stick to a routine. Something that I struggled with at home because there were a lot of distractions was I would set a morning routine for myself. I would set other routines, and I would get distracted by other things that were going on in my house or things that I had to do for my mom or my grandmother, and it would kind of throw me off of my morning routine. And not saying I never wanted to help them, I always wanted to help them, but when you try to set a routine for yourself and get yourself in a good place and a momentum, some things like distractions can throw you off of that and can kind of affect you mentally. And even though it might not be a big thing, when you set goals for yourself and you want to accomplish something every single morning, it can kind of throw you back a little bit. And being here, being alone, having my own space really allowed me to be able to 100% accomplish my morning routine pretty much every single day. And granted, I'm not perfect. I miss some things here and there, but I'm able to now focus on myself a lot more. I'm able to focus on my mental health, my physical health. I'm able to focus on my career and my work, and being able to get up in the morning at the time that I want and being able to come right into this room and get my morning routine done without any distractions has been a huge benefit for me. And it's allowed me to get a better perspective of how I want my morning to look like, how I want my rest of my day to look like, by starting off in a positive way and doing all the things I do in the morning to allow me to get to that place when I start my day in a very positive way. The next thing about living here has taught me is that being alone is a blessing and a curse at the same time. Like I said before, those are some great positives of being alone. You get to really focus on yourself and focus on what you need to accomplish to get things done in your life. On the flip side of that, some of the negative aspects are you're alone. You have no one to really talk to, no one to converse with on a daily basis. Like when I was at home, I had one of my best friends 2 minutes down the road, and we would just hang out every day. And even if it's for 10 minutes a day, we would just chat. And sometimes it gets lonely here. Now I'm working on being more productive when I'm alone, especially when I'm sad, or especially when I'm lonely. Instead of feeling sad for myself, I try to keep myself busy and motivated and doing all of these different things throughout the day so I don't feel that loneliness immediately. I've definitely gotten better at acknowledging that feeling and then working through that through productive measures like YouTube, for example. This has really kept me kind of creative, and when I'm in a funk or when I'm not busy with work, being able to do something like this and just kind of get things off my chest that I hold in has really helped me clear my head. Because today, for example, I didn't have work, I'm not booked today, and sometimes I'm not booked for a little bit, and that gets really anxious for me. I get really upset. I get kind of nervous because I now have rent. I have all of these other things that are on my plate, and I get these feelings built up inside of me that need to be released. And having this outlet and being able to talk to you guys about it has really allowed me that freedom of just expressing myself. So I appreciate all of you that listen and kind of care about what I have to say, because it means a lot to me to be able to do this. Another thing about living here has taught me is a little bit more about my finances. Being at home, I didn't have rent, I didn't have other bills that I have now, and it's allowed me to kind of refocus my energy on structuring my business in a proper way. And yes, I had it structured properly before. I have my business license, I have an LLC, I have QuickBooks, I do all my finances, I have an accountant that I talk to. So I understand the business aspect of it and everything that went along with that. But I was just in a state of comfortability. Being at home, I didn't have the rent, so most of my money went into equipment. A lot of it went to my savings and investments and things like that, because I didn't have to pay rent, and whatever came. I didn't have to worry. And now that I have to pay rent, it allowed me to refocus on my finances in a new way. And sometimes it's a little scary, sometimes it feels great. And when you're busy, it feels great. But something that I've been working on more is just separating my finances into different categories and making sure that I have certain things as a priority over certain other things that used to be a priority. Being a self-employed business owner of just one employee of myself, something that I started doing now is W-2ing myself as an employee. Prior to this, I would just pay myself every so often when I had extra money. But after a recent conversation with someone who owns a business that's very successful, he gave me the recommendation of paying myself priority first. And at first I didn't understand. I was like, well, I want to reinvest in the business. I want to do this, that, and the other. And he said, yeah, you could still do that, but you need to pay yourself. You need to force yourself to pay every single week. Make that a habit so you keep working hard enough and keep making that money so you can continue to pay yourself. You can continue to save. And when at the end of the year, when taxes come and you have a W-2 employee as yourself, that'll also help you on taxes. So that was something that I learned, and that was something that was beneficial and great for me to learn. The other thing I do now for taxes, I've done this probably for the past year or so, but I think it's pretty beneficial maybe for some of you, is I have a separate bank account specifically for my taxes. Now, every percentage is different for everybody, different state, different wherever. But for me, my tax account, every time I get any sort of income into my business checking account, I take 20% of that and put that into my tax account. regardless of the amount of money that goes in, $10, $100, $1,000 into the account, 20% of that will always go into my tax account. And the reason for that is my second year in business, I didn't do this. I wasn't really understanding taxes very well, and I still don't understand it very well, but I didn't have a separate account. I didn't really save for taxes. And at the end of the year, I didn't pay quarterly. At the end of the year, my accountant hit me with a bill that hit a nerve, hit right in the stomach, hurt real bad. And from then on out, I made it a priority to learn taxes, understand how they work, and how I can put myself in a better position next year. So now I pay quarterly, and I also have a separate tax account. So every time I get income, 20% goes into that. So at the end of the year, that bank account is filled with money specifically for taxes already, and it doesn't have to come out of my checking account. So I know there's a bunch more things that I could talk about, benefits of being in this apartment. Just for one, I started enjoying cooking a lot more. And even though I rotate the same like 5 or so dishes, I'm enjoying the process of cooking, even though it takes a while and sometimes I don't want to do it. It's rewarding at the end when you get to sit down and eat and you know that you cooked a nice meal for yourself, and it's nice. Last thing I want to talk about is just mental health. And part of the reason why I actually did today's video, and it wasn't planned, it was just spontaneous today, is because I felt really down on myself today. I felt really anxious, and I mentioned it before. I didn't work today, I'm not booked today. And sometimes I get really anxious, especially when I'm not booked for a couple days in a row and I'm just home. I have to figure out what to do with myself. And I get in my head a lot about, you're not good enough, you're not gonna make it, how are you gonna pay your bills? That person's working, this, that, the other, all of the things that I'm sure you guys talk to yourself about. I tell myself these things all the time, and it drains the life out of me. So again, being able to express it this way is really beneficial. And for anyone that doesn't have an outlet like this, maybe try it. Sit in front of the camera, see how it feels. It's kind of challenging, but it feels kind of good at the same time. But back on the topic, as filmmakers and freelancers and business owners, we go through hills and valleys all the time, inevitably for the rest of our lives. And that's something that I've started to understand, is that it won't really go away. It's the life that I chose, it's the life that I want to live, and it's part of that lifestyle. And the sooner that I get a grasp on understanding the hills and the valleys and knowing that it's not a flat road, the better off I'll be in understanding how to deal with certain anxieties that I have every day. And I'm not great at it. I'm not even good at it. I'm barely okay at it. I'm pretty crappy at it because I still have so much anxiety every day. Because I would love to hear how you guys deal with maybe some anxieties that you have and some things that you deal with on a daily basis in terms of your life, business, filmmaking, and because I know I'm not the only one here that goes through this. So I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on how you kind of express yourself and get over certain fears and anxieties that way. For me, I do stuff like this. I talk, I write my feelings, I write things that I'm grateful for every day. Whether that be just being like waking up in the morning. So part of my morning routine is writing down 10 things that I'm grateful for in the morning. And most of the time it's that I'm grateful that I woke up, grateful that I'm healthy, I'm grateful that I have this career, I'm grateful that I have the artistic capabilities, the problem-solving skills, the ability to grow in this business, being so young and having this apartment. There's so many things that I have that I should be grateful for, and I am grateful for, and acknowledging that helps me in the morning realize that the rest of my day should be presented in a positive way because I have so much to be grateful for. And I also need to realize that I'm not 40 years old. I'm not 20 years in experience in this business. I've only been a DP for 2 years now, and I can't expect the world yet. I can't expect to be busy every single day. I can't expect all these things. I just need to be patient, or as I like to say, be patiently impatient. And I've said that before, and it's just acknowledging that where you are in your current place in your life is where you're meant to be, but don't just sit there and wait for that next opportunity to come to you. You need to get it. You need to work for that new opportunity, and that's where the impatience come in, is the hard work, the big drive to get you to that next place. But the patient is understanding that where you are is where you're supposed to be. And maybe some of you agree, maybe some of you don't. But that's what I believe, and that's what kind of helps me stay grounded and release some of the anxiety that I have every day. But yeah, I don't know, I think that's kind of it for today. That felt like really good, actually. I feel a lot better because my head was pretty clouded today. I felt pretty good. So I appreciate you guys listening if you're still here. If not, you missed out. So that's it, and you guys know that I appreciate all of you, the old faces, the new faces, the faces that I can't see because I can't see any of you guys, but I know you're here, and that means the world to me. So thank you guys as always. Till next time, I'll see you later. Peace out.